Hi there. Welcome to Teacher Lisa's Native English. Today is day 8 of Learn 200 Idioms in 20 Days. And our topic today is Idioms for Baking, Part 2. But before we look at the first one, I'd like you to click on the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification as well, so that you will hear whenever I upload a new video. I don't want you to miss any of these videos in this series. So let's look at idiom number 1 in Idioms for Baking, Part 2. So number 1 is to break bread. When you break bread with somebody, it's another way of saying that you're sharing a meal. So if someone invites you out on Friday night and says, would you like to break some bread on Friday night? They're inviting you out for dinner. So you can say yes, you can say no, you can say, sure, I'd love to break some bread with you. So it means to share a meal with someone or a group of people. Number 2 is the icing on the cake. The icing on the cake is very similar to the cherry on top that we studied last time in day 7, Idioms for Baking, Part 1. The cherry on top, very similar to this. So the icing on the cake is something that makes a wonderful situation even better. Let me give you an example. Let's say a young lady has married someone who her parents just absolutely love. They think this guy is great. And a few years later, they announce that they are expecting their first child. So of course, the girl's parents are so happy and they think, wow, that is just the icing on the cake. First we get a wonderful son-in-law and now we're going to get a grandchild, maybe their first grandchild. So the icing on the cake, you're improving an already fantastic situation. Number 3 is to eat humble pie. If you are forced to eat humble pie, you are in a position where you need to apologize for something or accept humiliation about something. And it usually starts when someone is boasting about something. Maybe a student says, I know I'm going to be top of my class because I always am. And then come graduation, they are not the top of their class. And they feel like they have let themselves down by boasting about that. And they're forced to recognize that what they were saying was not really the end result. So you're forced to apologize for something as well. Let's say you have a company and you boast for a long time, or our company is going to definitely outperform our competitors. And then at the end of the year, that's not the case. Maybe your numbers have fallen throughout the year. So you're forced to eat humble pie. You're forced to say that you were wrong. You're perhaps forced to apologize and say that you're sorry about something, or you're forced to accept humiliation about something that you had boasted about. Number 4 is to get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Maybe when you were a child, this was literal. Maybe you had a cookie jar at home, and whenever your mom baked cookies, she put the cookies in the cookie jar. And if she told you one day, don't you touch those cookies, those are for special occasions, maybe when she left the room, you put your hand in to try to grab one, and she came back in and saw your hand in the cookie jar. So it can be literal, but it can also be, of course, idiomatic. We're studying idioms. So if you are caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you are caught in the act of doing something that is unacceptable, or something that is perhaps just simply bad behavior. Someone is catching you in the act of doing something. Let's say, terrible, if your house is ever broken into and you come home and you see a burglar in your house when you open the lock on the front door, and you find someone with their hand in the cookie jar stealing your things. So that's a drastic situation, but it does happen. But this is a perfect idiom for that situation. Catching someone in the act of doing something either unethical or illegal or something that is simply just wrong. Number 5, to sugarcoat something is to make something seem more fantastic, more positive, more wonderful than it really is. Perhaps you're planning a trip, or maybe in the past you planned a trip. And you went online and you looked at many different internet websites to find maybe a resort in a country somewhere. And, you know, in the description they say, oh, we have the best beaches in the whole country. And our resort is the cleanest and it has the most wonderful amenities in the whole area, the whole city. So you say, wow, that sounds fantastic. Let's book our vacation there. And then you get to the place, you get to the resort, and the beaches are not very nice. The room is not clean, the food is not very good, and the resort just generally is not very good. So the resort has sugar-coated their appearance and their cleanliness and the beauty of their beaches, right? But when you get there, it's something completely different. So that's just one example of sugar-coating something. There are many other examples. Let's say you're in a car accident and you're using somebody else's car accident with your mother's car or something like that. And you say you call her on the phone and you say, oh, Mom, I was in a little car accident. Oh, it's, Mom, it's just a scratch. It was really just a minor accident. But when she sees the car, it's more than a scratch. It's a big, huge dent that's going to cost her hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to repair. So when you sugarcoat something, you're making something sound or seem a lot more positive and a lot more pleasant than it really is in reality, right? Number 6 is you can't have your cake and eat it too. This means that you can't have things both ways. You have to make a choice about what it really is you want. Let me give you an example. Let's say you work at a company and there is a fantastic job that has been posted on the job board, on the job posting board. And you say, I would really love to apply for that job, but I know that the job requires that I have to work weekends, right? So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to make a choice. Do you want the job or do you want your weekends off? You can't have both. So it forces you to decide what it is that you really, really want. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have things both ways. Very often, you are forced to make a choice or a decision of some sort. Number 7 is pie in the sky. And pie in the sky is usually referred to or usually said when someone is talking about a dream or a hope they have or a goal that they have. So let's say there's a gentleman in his 40s, let's say, and he says, my dream, my great ambition is to be a world famous astronaut. I've never studied science before. I don't know anything about physics. I don't know anything about space, but I've always had this desire to be an astronaut and to go into the final frontier of space. And you say, well, that's really pie in the sky. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. So a pie in the sky dream or a pie in the sky goal is something that is so grandiose, so big, that it probably is not going to be realistic or accessible for whoever is dreaming it or for whoever's goal it is. So pie in the sky is something that is probably impossible to achieve and, quite frankly, fairly unrealistic. Number 8, to bake up a storm. To bake up a storm is to bake a large amount of something with great enthusiasm and great passion. Let's say you're planning a friend's, wedding shower, which is a party for the bride with all of her female friends and her female relatives before she gets married. So let's say you're planning your friend's wedding shower, a bridal shower. So you want to do all the baking. You don't want to order the baked goods. You want to make all the baked goods yourself. So you bake up a storm. You bake cakes. You bake cookies. You maybe bake pies and bread for sandwiches. And you just go crazy with all of the baking for your friend's party. So you bake up a storm. You could also use this for cooking. You could cook up a storm for a party or a special occasion, right? So that's a great one, to bake up a storm. If you are a baker and you love to bake, this is probably something that you have done in the past, spending one day or maybe several days just baking for a special event or party of some sort. Number 9 is from scratch. And from scratch can certainly be relating to baking, but it can also be related to other contexts as well. If you're baking something from scratch, you're not using a boxed mix. You're not using anything that has already been prepared and that you bought in the store. You're using individual ingredients in order to bake whatever you're baking. So you're getting the flour, the butter, the sugar, the vanilla, whatever goes into your baking recipe. And you're starting with all of the ingredients and just baking it yourself. You're not starting with a mix or something that has already been prepared that you've bought from the store. So that is the baking context. But there are other contexts for using this idiom when you're making something from scratch, or doing something from scratch. Let's say you have a business, and the building where your business is, perhaps there was a fire in the building where your business is located. Maybe you have a storefront and you have lost absolutely everything in your business. Now, you might be getting insurance money, of course, to rebuild your business. So when you rebuild your business, you have to start from scratch. You have to start all over again from the beginning. You have to get more products. You have to make sure that your customers are still there after you rebuild the business. It might take you months, it might take you years to rebuild the business, but you've got to start from scratch. You have to start right from the beginning again to rebuild your business or your enterprise. So there are a couple of contexts for doing things from scratch. And number 10, to have a finger in every pie means that you are involved in so many projects, so many things that you're doing, and so many things that maybe you're not doing any of them very well. You might be involved in your business, and maybe you're involved in your child's baseball team. Maybe you're a coach in the baseball team. Maybe you do a lot of charitable work, and it's all wonderful, but you have your hand, you have your finger in so many pies that it's just overwhelming, and you're not really able to do any of them or give all of your effort to any of these things because you're involved in so many things. So to have a finger in every pie might not be the best thing. Maybe just limit how many things you're involved in to a few, 2, 3 maybe, so that you can really devote a lot of time and a lot of effort and do a great job for whatever it is that you love to do. Okay, so those are idioms 1 to 10 in part 2 of idioms for baking. Let's review them. Number 1, to break bread, to share a meal with someone. Number 2, the icing on the cake, very similar to the cherry on top. It's something that is adding to a situation that is already fantastic. Number 3, to eat humble pie. You're forced to admit that you were wrong. maybe say that you're sorry. Number 4, to get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. You're caught in the act of doing something. It's perhaps something that's wrong that you're doing, or something even that is unethical, or perhaps even illegal. Number 5, to sugarcoat something. You're making something sound so fantastic, but in fact, it's really the opposite. Number 6, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have things both ways. You're forced to make a choice, to make a decision. Number 7, pie in the sky. Something, a goal or a dream that is really unrealistic and probably not attainable. Number 8, to bake up a storm. You're going crazy baking for a particular event, a special event. You're baking a large quantity of baked goods. Number 9, from scratch. You're starting from the very beginning of something. If you're baking, you're not buying a prepared cake mix from the store. You're buying the flour, the butter, the sugar. You're using individual ingredients and following a recipe. And number 10, to have a finger in every pie. You are involved in a lot of different causes, a lot of different activities, but because you are spread so thinly, that's another idiom, you're not doing any of the activities to your best ability. Okay? So that is numbers 1 to 10 in Idioms for Baking Part 2. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something. Please make sure that you click the subscribe button down below so that I know that you're there and that you don't miss any of the videos. Okay. Thanks so much again for joining me. I'll see you next time.